So always that pause there. All right, everybody. First, I guess we should start off by saying happy Valentine's Day. And thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of the special day with us. You know, the love for your community is an important thing. So let us all be part of your Valentine, I guess, for today. So welcome to this month's Blueprints for Business. We've got some amazing guest hosts that I will introduce here pretty quick. But I want to give a quick bit of credit, actually. This topic, philanthropy and accounting, Rich Kane was the one who suggested this to me. And I just absolutely love the idea. Didn't know when we were planning to do this and scheduling, it turned out to be, I think, the best day we could ever talk about giving back to community, you know, building up and doing so much more. So I'm really excited for today's episode. But before going further, Rich, how are you doing? Richard?
Yeah, right.
Richard, how are you doing? Don't ever call you Rich. Sorry about that.
Don't ever call me Rich. You know the rules. I don't know what happened there. It was a glitch in the matrix, we'll call it. I'm doing fantastic, doing a lot of extracurricular work that we'll be putting out into the world very soon for the tax Twitter. I'm sorry, it's not. Now it's my turn to have a glitch. For the tax retreat, which we'll be announcing the locations and the dates very, very soon. So very excited about that. That's been kind of all consuming at the moment.
And then, of course, I wanted to, Jane, with Fordley. Thank you very much, Jane, as always, for being our proud sponsor of Blueprints for Business. You actually have had a couple different things. You had a different event earlier today, your speed dating. And then you've also got something else you're doing for the community. Do you mind kind of giving us an update of everything real quick?
Yeah. So earlier today, we did our Love It First demo. It was a really fun accounting showcase. We had 8 different apps and just presenters sharing different things that they're working on in the accounting community, everything from like Diamonds 1099 problems.io and talking about Ask a CPA community to we had a brand new app called Cleanup Buddy, giving a quick demo of how to help out shoebox clients clean up their books. So just lots of really cool things popped up and it was a lot of fun. So make sure to check out the recording. But we also are just launching our firm pizza giveaway. So I think I've talked about it a lot on Blueprints for Business, but I grew up in a tax preparation firm. And the biggest thing that we did was my dad would go get pizza when everybody was starting to die a little bit inside. So this year I chatted with our CEO and we decided we're going to buy pizza for 10 firms. So there is, if you go to like fordley.com/pizza, there is a form. You can fill it out and basically tell me why your firm is the one that deserves pizza. And at any point you want in the next couple of months, I will deliver as many pizzas as you need to your office. So go check it out because it should be fun.
So this is a great chance to ask everybody in the comments, if you believe pineapple belongs on a pizza, put a 1 in the comments and put a 2 if you say no. I
will fight over this, by the way.
And I'm watching, as you guys already know, if you see me looking aside, I'm trying to watch social media to bring people back in to, you know, engage all the way around. But this is a great time to have our guest hosts kind of introduce themselves. I believe most everybody here already know them, I should say. I'm happy to have on with us today Heather Day Satterley. Heather, would you do us the honors and introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, I think I know a lot of you on this call. I'm Heather. I'm a CPA. I've done a bunch of things. I am the co-host of the Appy Hour with Liz and Heather and the founder of Appy Camp. And I also am the director of education and media over at Woodard. Woodard is a community program that does coaching, consulting, education, resources. And then we also do a big old conference once a year down in Orlando, where we host 2,000 technology providers, other accounting partners, and accountants for a really good fun time over 4 days. So that's me. And nice to see you, meet you today. Oh, and I live in Rhode Island. I feel like I should say that I live in the smallest state and it's lovely here today.
Nice.
And I love cats and horses.
And what's your horse's name again? Oh,
Marley.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thought so. Yes. We also have Marriott Martinez has jumped in as well. I'm expecting, a couple of these ladies will be talking about one of our favorite organizations, Accounting Cornerstone. But Marriott, would you introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Marriott Martinez. So excited to be here again. Hopefully, I know most of you. If not, thank you for spending Valentine's with us today because that's super exciting. Thank you for letting me go after Heather because, so many of the amazing things she does, I just follow what she does and I hang out where she's at and I'm in her circles, and it's just amazing to be around humans like Heather. So we are actually in one of the organizations that we'll be talking about together today, which is Accounting Cornerstone Foundation. So I'm excited to share about that. I have a long kind of history in the accounting industry. My parents, my mom, not my parents, my mother owned a chain of restaurants for 30 years. So I started bookkeeping back when I was 12. And now let's fast forward several years. I'm not going to do the math. So, and I decided to kind of transform and transition into what I call this other type of bookkeeper and accountant that I knew was inside me back in 2014. That's when I met Heather. And that's when I transformed at her conference she's talking about, which is Scaling New Heights. And my journey has just been incredible ever since. So after 20 plus years in the accounting industry, I transitioned completely out. And now I'm an educator and a guide and a coach for my own bookkeeping and accounting community members, and also for my absolute favorite business owners, which are solopreneurs. So that's a little bit about me.
Now, Marriott, you just had a session earlier today and you were giving away a year-round cheat sheet. Is that something, if people didn't attend, they could still sign up for, register, or check out or something like that? If
Yes,
possible?
yes, absolutely. So yeah, follow me on social. I'm really easy to find, Marriott Martinez or Master Books. I had an amazing Valentine's date with about 100 people, and I gave away my new year-round accounting checklist, which was amazing. So just go online and find information about it, and it's available now to the entire industry. So one person won it, but it's actually a new course that I launched today.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now we also have Rich Kane, and Rich, I see you are sporting a new office space as well. Would you do me a favor and introduce yourself to everybody?
Rich Kane, kind of like an old timer here. I was working with QuickBooks Desktop since 1996, if that dates me. I've been in the QuickBooks realm for now it's almost going to be 96 to almost 30 years practically, getting into this software and being an accountant and trying to give back to my community where I possibly can. And I said to Matt, let's do something where everyone can share ways that they give back to their community in the accounting realm. Sad to say, in the accounting realm, the younger generation doesn't want to go into it as quickly as we wanted to. And it was great that I'm trying to be a CPA and all that fun stuff. And the pool of students now, they don't want to work the long hours. They don't want to sit for an exam. So I'm trying to help motivate the younger generation on the good parts of being an accountant and being a CPA.
I love it.
Got a lot of good shaking heads on that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
As a reminder to everybody, we always love doing these sessions as an open flowing conversation. So we bring some people on that are here to help kind of share some of their stuff and engage a conversation, but we're here to hear from everybody else all at the exact same time.
Exactly.
So I'd love, in the chat, or if you guys have certain ideas of ways that you like to give back, why don't we start off first with Heather and Marriott and kind of tell us a little bit about Accounting Cornerstone to get us started on the idea of philanthropy and lifting each other up.
Yeah, absolutely. So Accounting Cornerstone Foundation is a organization that was founded by Kate Johnson, Don Brolin, and myself. And it was actually sparked by an experience or a vision that happened at Appy Hour Camp, the very first Appy Hour Camp. And so Kate Johnson had we had this banner at Appy Camp that said, "What if?" And what Liz and I had asked all of the attendees to do was to think big and write down one thing that, if it existed in the world of accounting, could change the world. And so Kate Johnson wrote down, and I actually have it right here because on our website, we have a picture of it. She had said, what if there were scholarships to send people to conferences? Because I would imagine that every single person that's on this call today has been, hopefully you've been to a conference. If you had, if you haven't listened, listen to what I'm about to say. But if you have been at a conference, then you know that they are life changing. So my first conference was in 2012 at Sleater. My first Scaling New Heights is 2014. And I have to tell you, that was the first time in my life where I was like, oh my gosh, I found my peeps. Like I walked in and there was, 1,000 other people that really valued the same things that I valued, that were struggling with the same things I was struggling with. And they just welcomed me with open arms. I learned new things. It was absolutely life-changing. And so Kate also had that experience, as did Dawn and I. And so the Accounting Cornerstone was founded to send folks that maybe didn't have the resources. And by resources, we mean money, we mean mentorship, we mean, information, and that support to actually experience that. So how many lives could we change if we created an organization that could send people all expenses paid to their very first accounting conference? And so that was how Accounting Cornerstone Foundation was born. And we have sent 24, Marriott, you're going to have to help me, but I want to say it's 24 people to conferences in the last 2 years. And
Impressive.
we're looking to send even more to conferences this year. And what's happened, it's been incredible. We've had so many generous donations by members of our community. The people that have actually received these scholarships, their lives have been changed. We're seeing them do some really amazing things. We have one person that started doing YouTube videos and TikToks to help people. They've made friends. People that have gone together are still in touch and they've formed friendships. So it's been really incredible. And the venue, the conferences themselves, many of them actually donate the registrations. So, the organization is able to help even more people, because then we're just covering the travel costs and the incidentals for these individuals. So it has been really, really cool to see this come to fruition and to actually see it at work. So I encourage everyone to check out our website, because there's some really great stories, pictures. And if you've never been to an accounting conference before, you can apply to attend one of the 4 conferences that we're going to be sending folks to this year, which, Marriott, we're doing, I don't have access to our WhatsApp, but we're doing Scaling New Heights.
Scaling New Heights, Bridging the Gap, NAEA. That's a National Association of Enrolled Agents, and Reframe, Hector Garcia.
And Reframe, right.
Yes. Yes.
I got
One
some
thing I wanted
questions.
to add really quickly, because I think it's so important in regards to the love for the community. I think at least this is for me, what I feel like has sparked out even more than what we wanted to do with Accounting Cornerstone Foundation, was that we have these people that are just going out of their way to want to contribute, to want to participate. I'll say the best example, and I love what Rich said in the beginning, we want to get people excited again. And so at Scaling New Heights, Anchor was like, we want to do something fun with y'all. We want to do something fun with Accounting Cornerstone Foundation. So they did this fun dance competition. So if anyone was at Scaling New Heights, they literally rented out a whole dance floor, and they did a dance competition. And, they asked it to be this really beautiful, loving partnership between Accounting Cornerstone Foundation and Anchor, and they got tons of speakers and presenters to dance on stage in front of everybody in the expo room, which was just, that alone was incredible. But then at the end, whoever was the winner of the dance competition, all for fun, right? Even though some people really went off on their dance and costumes and everything, then that person was going to become a mentor to even more accounting peers. So it's this constant ripple effect and wave in our industry. And I just feel like when you do participate in this type of, kind of community work, it's such a bigger effect than just that organization, because people want ways to participate. So I'll say that's been my biggest thing with Accounting Cornerstone Foundation. Of course, I'm proud to be part of the board, but I think what's more rewarding is when people are banging on our door saying, how can I make this, how can I help this, spread this, make this more fun, and have people get excited again about our industry. So I just wanted to mention that.
Mariette, Heather, do you have a way for people to donate to the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation?
Absolutely. We've dropped the link. Mariette has dropped the link in the chat. You can go to accountingcornerstone.org, and there's a big orange button right at the top right that says make a donation. And our applications are open for this year. So if you know somebody that has said, I'd really love to go to Scaling New Heights, I'd really love to go to Bridging the Gap, but I just can't swing it this year, encourage them to apply. That's who this is for.
Now, it's interesting you say that, because it's a two-way street. There are people that want to donate and want to give. And then there has to be somebody on the other side. If I'm giving, I'm grateful to give. Somebody has to be on the receiving end, which will make me happy. So people tend to be a little dismal about wanting to take the scholarships, and they shouldn't be, because it's going to help you in the long run. And it's great. How come in looking at these conferences, there isn't a prominent button that says donate for a scholarship or something? Is there a reason for that, or is it a way to make it more prominent when we're on their website, that we can give there or someone can take?
On the actual conference websites?
Yeah.
I that's a really great question. And that's something that, Mariette, we should talk about with the board at our next board meeting.
Because other than hearing out about it from Matt, like, oh, that exists. Like, well, if I would have known about it years ago, I would have contributed towards it.
And I want to share something, Rich, real quick. Yeah. I mean, that was amazing. And Heather, we got to talk about that, because like light bulb moment right there.
Sure.
But
yeah.
One thing that I will say that I've done for years, and I'm sure many of you have done it, is that when you go to a conference, before Accounting Cornerstone, all of this, Rich, you were talking about conferences, but Richard specifically said, I think he mentioned in the 90s, he went to a conference. So if you've been doing this long enough and you know the transformation, I've been actually paying for women to go to conferences for years. So I have just been offering, like, if you, but again, I'm a little tough. Like, you're going to go there, you're going to go out there, you're not going to go in your hotel room. Like, I really want you to do all these things. And then when they come back, again, the ripple effect, right? Like, I think people have been paying it forward for years, but to your case, Richard, to your point, we need to make it easier, right? So thank you for mentioning that. Yeah.
Right.
But before this episode, Rich and I talked quite a bit about these different things, and I can tell you we were brainstorming a whole bunch of different ideas, such as that, or even having the ability to do, for people that donate, having a badge that we could put on our website that links back to other people being able to donate or learn more about it. Just the same theme is happening here, where we're all excited to try to give back and lift up the community, is what I keep hearing.
Definitely, and there's other ways, like Alicia did for Royal Wise. They had a party, and she let everybody on the call know, hey, we're going to raise money for Accounting Cornerstone, and she raised well over $1,000. I think it may have been over $2,000 for my birthday and for a bunch of birthdays. If you go on Facebook, you know how you can do the birthday donations, right? You can do that. And when I did mine, I put Accounting Cornerstone as the charitable organization. So that's another way that you can easily, promote the organization.
So,
you think you could do
Heather, I have a question. If you are working with a specific conference, or if there are conferences out there that want to either donate attendee registration or whatnot, how do they get in touch with you and make that happen?
I would say either have them reach out to one of the board members, Mariette or myself or Dawn, or just go, you can reach out to us on the website. Scaling New Heights, Zero, Intuit, they all donated registrations. So we didn't have to pay for registrations to those events. I think NAEA did as well. I think all 4 of the conferences that we sent people to last year, every single one of them comped us the tickets. So that is a way that they're giving back to our community as well.
So Alicia, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the event you put on, because you're always so giving of your time, your knowledge with others. So can you tell a little bit more about that? And then I'd also, after that, love to hear from other people their different ideas of ways we can help contribute and give back to community.
Well, for several years, Royal Wise was doing Christmas parties. And last year we moved it to April 16th as kind of like pencils down, tax season is over. And I decided, I think I started 2 years ago. I think I've done it for the last 2 parties where I was like, that's what it was. My parties originally started as fundraisers for my own scholarship program for accounting students to join Royal Wise Owls. And we got donors and stuff for it. And then the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation popped up. And so I switched it so that they were the recipients of the money. And I had a couple sponsors come in, and I just donated the sponsors' contributions to the party, and that's why my tally went up so much. But it was a big group effort, and Rich attends these parties. A lot of people are there, and so we are going to do it again this year. Although now I have to go tell my team and make sure it's on the calendar.
Yeah.
Now, Rich, I know one of your associates had some different ideas that they were thinking of sharing.
Right, and like Ryan, he's online here, let him come off of mute, and he volunteers at 2 non-for-profits, and I'd like him to share with us his experience of how he gives back to the community.
Thanks, Rich. So hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Goodell. I'm one of the partners at CJBS, and a couple of years ago, I had a friend who is now a client that basically said his dream was to create a dog sanctuary. And I have dogs are very near and dear to my heart. My dad bred Brittany Spaniels when I was a little boy and stuff. So always loved dogs, and I wanted to help. This was kind of my first foray into potentially helping. So things kind of happened with his current treasurer, and I stepped into that position a couple of years ago to help them through. We're still kind of in the initial onset of that organization and getting things going. The other organization, I was at a golf outing last year, and for that organization, and an attorney that I knew came up to me and asked me for a favor. Their treasurer was about to have quadruple bypass, and they needed somebody to step in. So obviously I have a skill set, right? They had a fire that they needed to put out and some assistance. So I stepped in. And what that organization does is they fight food insecurity here in Northbrook, Illinois. They're called Hunger Resource Network. And so we do, one of our big things is Student Food Pack, which is getting food into the grade school and high school students in Northbrook. You wouldn't expect Northbrook. So again, for people who are not from Illinois, Northbrook is a more affluent community. If you say food insecurity, people kind of look at you like you got horns growing out of your head, like that shouldn't happen. It does. So that's one of our programs. And then our other program is our Community Outreach Day, where we did the week before Thanksgiving, we did 160,000 pounds of chicken that we basically purchased and then got into trucks to go to food pantries, and all of that food was consumed, all of that chicken was consumed in about 24 hours. So yeah, being able to have this skill set and be able to give back is important. Rich and I were talking yesterday. One of the quotes that my grandfather always told me, the greatest tragedy in life is wasted talent. And if I have a skill set that I can help somebody and I choose to not use it, it's a tragedy. And I don't want to do that. I want to help people and organizations, and hopefully, the karma circle comes back and I'm rewarded at some point in life. If not, perfectly fine too. I feel really good for doing what I'm doing and assisting with these organizations. So thank you for the opportunity to talk.
I think you'll fit in extremely well here, Ryan. The people that are here, we all have that, truly believe we all have the same concept that, pay it forward, help each other. As I like to say, together we all succeed. So
Ryan, do us a favor and put the links to the organization in the chat so that people can become more familiar with it too. You're doing some great things.
Absolutely. I will do that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Richard.
Absolutely.
So has anybody ever gone to like their local community colleges or specialty trade colleges and donated time to try to maybe help motivate people and educate people around the accounting industry in itself? Anybody want to speak to that? I see Alicia, and then maybe Carl, and then Kathy.
Yeah, my son is in the business program at his community college, and it was actually his first business class, and he was telling his instructor what I do. And so they brought me on as a guest speaker. And so I got to talk about bookkeeping and accounting as a viable career path and take all the questions. And it was really fun and really gratifying.
I wanted to also mention that it's been almost 2 years since I moved down here, living in the Daytona area. So started networking in earnest pretty much once I got here. And I've gotten involved with the Daytona Chamber. I've done a few classes with them. I've done some things with the SBDC here locally. And I'm trying to make some connections so that I can hopefully get on as an adjunct professor there at the college. And I've already met with somebody that might be needing some accounting teaching. So I'm going to put in my application here soon.
I love that. Carl, did I see you lift your hand earlier? Do you want to share something as well?
Yeah, so I've stayed in touch with my alma mater. So we have 2 4-year colleges here in Fresno, California. So I graduated from the smaller school, Fresno Pacific, and I've got a number of friends and contacts at Cal State University, Fresno. And so I've gone to both of those schools back and talked in their undergrad accounting classes just about what a career in accounting can look like. You know, the big thing I try to push is the idea of the value of the EA designation, because that doesn't get attention in the collegiate space because you don't need a college degree to become an EA. And so just especially, before the recent announcements to try to scale back the 150-hour rule, that was so onerous. And particularly to, a lot of career changers or people going back to school, or people who were in school who were already parents, and, they've got kids, and then they need to go take a bunch of underwater basket weaving, that doesn't add value to their career. And so, Mariette, yes, the 150-hour rule is in the process of changing. Ohio is the only state that has changed the requirement, but California is one of the 4 or 5 states where the Board of Accountancy is working on rolling that back to make it the requirement of a bachelor's degree, not 150 hours.
That's, I've always seen Blake Oliver is kind of like the driving force behind the 150
Yep.
hours, at least. I'm sure there's.
I use his story a lot,
Yeah.
and I also sit on the Cal CPA state map committee, and I push that as, for a while Cal CPA was towing the line, no, this is valuable, and doing the AICPA's ELE program, they were going to let firms structure entry-level staff work to get collegiate credits. Know that you're putting more work on firms. Just roll back the 150. And I used Blake's story so often, like he was a music performance major, as a career changer where you're already doing daily life and the family is relying on your income, and you're going to go get just cake units, just performative. It's insulting, and that's hurting our pipeline. You want to fix the pipeline, you roll back the 150. It was stupid to begin with. And the idea that you only need 150, that you need 150 units and you only need 1 year of experience. I'm sorry, 1 year of experience is not enough to be valuable as a CPA in our community. It is a stepping stone. And so I got licensed under.
I waited 15 years to get my CPA. I passed the exam right out of college and waited 15 years because Rhode Island, when I was a junior in college, they changed the rule from 120 to 150. And I could have gone and gotten an art degree and gotten my CPA because I had all of the technical requirements to get my CPA. I had all the experience. And so I finally did get a master's in innovation in 2019. And I called them up and I'm like, so do I get a CPA now? And they're like, yep. And it was ridiculous. So I really do hope that they roll that back.
I remember the day you got it.
It was a big deal. My mom was so happy. She's a CPA. She was so happy, but it was ridiculous that I had to wait 15 years.
Here's a funny story. So I went to college to play baseball, and obviously maybe you can tell from the hat, but at orientation, our chair of the accounting department loves telling the story because I sat down and he goes, "All right, everyone here, you're gonna have to get 150 credit hours." I looked at him and started laughing and walked out. Yeah. And that's ultimately the reaction a lot of college kids will have to it. I'm not going to college for another year. Absolutely not. I had that reaction. My life scenario and situation changed and kind of forced me down that road, unfortunately. But I mean, I had that reaction and I can understand how kids, and that was, I'm dating myself a little bit now, but that was about 18 years ago. So, you know, it's still the same situation.
You know, I've
Something I wanna
considered.
just, oh, go ahead, Matthew.
I was
No,
gonna
I
say,
just was, because this conversation is so good and rich. And we got a lot of riches here, so it's kind of cool. But
only
so
one rich.
I
We
did,
got
you know, I
another
did.
Richard.
It is actually rich. I didn't. That wasn't a pun, but it just felt perfect. So, but because of this whole idea of bringing in that younger generation, like I would just love if we can go a little bit more into that, just for ideas. But one thing that I say that I've done. So if y'all are not aware, so Intuit has an education platform. It's called Intuit Education. They built it out a couple of years ago, and it's specifically a financial literacy platform that are asking educators to go in and use for free, and then take this financial literacy to the schools, because now financial literacy has become a standard in most states. And so there's a financial literacy curriculum that needs to be taught in the K-12 grade level, which I'm super excited about. So I like, that's a huge passion of mine. And that's why I know a lot about it. But anyway, so they built out this platform a couple of years ago, and then they built out other kind of campaigns, which last year, Alicia and I were in it back, no, not last year, in 2023, which is the food truck campaign, where they basically build out a food truck and then they let high schoolers run the food truck. Take the food truck to the school. The high schooler markets it, brands it, builds it out, sets it up their accounting, and starts selling out of the food truck. And now you have these young entrepreneurs in the food truck business at their school. And so I feel like, talking to, kind of bringing what you were saying, Ryan, like instead of them just being like, forget this, like I don't want to be in school, or I don't want to do these many hours. It's more like, let's shift it and say, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? How can we really like shift and reframe the conversation of how powerful it can be when you learn all the things that are in our industry while they're still excited and passionate in high school? Because that's huge for me right now. I want to get them early, right? Before they have that very kind of mindset. Like, I know my daughter, first year in college, I'm traumatized. Like what that's like and how much it's going to cost. So I think we need to get them in much earlier on. So whatever they're going to invest in, whether it's hours or money, like that, they're excited about it early on. So I'd love to hear if anyone has some ideas about that, because I've done the community, Matthew, I've gone to the community college, but I think we need to get them earlier on. We need to get them in the high school level. So just curious if anybody has some ideas on that.
So I used to have one of my clients was a friend I haven't seen in a couple of years. Had a company called Aspire 3, and it was entrepreneurial education that they focused on the middle schools and high schools, where they would go in and try to teach the different students what it meant to kind of be an entrepreneur, come up with the different ideas, create the pitch, create the, the budget, everything else. And then they would do a competition every year. I would be at one of the Cal State colleges, and whoever won got this $2,500 prize. Like it was amazing to see all these kids come together with these cool ideas. I got to be a judge each of the years, and it just empowered these students to come up with these unique ideas and see what you can do with it. Because I can truly say, like, a degree in accounting, business accounting, so forth, no matter what you go into in life, you can always use it, I think. So what other programs have you guys seen?
We had a young entrepreneur group in my high school, and it was fascinating. Learned a lot about business. the one thing that really came out, and I think that everybody here will really appreciate it, is they taught us how to be business people in there, but they did not teach us anything about finances or money or how to raise money. And that was one of the most fascinating things that was just left out. It's like I've talked about this over and over again in Roundtable Labs about we're not even teaching basic financial literacy anymore in elementary, middle school, high school. I really think that more people would get interested in this profession if they understood part of this profession. You know, we're still doing things like we're giving kids debit cards and then giving them starter checks in a checkbook register and expecting them to know how to balance it. It's not even the same thing anymore. You know, we're not hand balancing checkbooks anymore. And so those registers are kind of outdated, and yet nothing is kept up with the times. But teaching kids how to budget and how to manage their money, that would be a wonderful start to getting people interested in this industry by exposing them to it.
For sure.
I'd like quick question for everybody. How do you define financial literacy? What does that actually mean to everybody?
Great question.
Well, I mean, for me, it means understanding the basics of how money works, right? So, what is a bank account? What is interest? How does interest work? How can you earn money with interest? And how can you spend a lot of money on interest, right? Right. What is the cost? Like understanding that time value of money. I think all of those are things that are really, really important that, I remember my daughter was 16 and she got her first job at a pizza place and she got her first paycheck and she's looking at her paycheck in the car and she's silent. And she turns to me, she goes, "Mom, I worked this many hours. I make this much money, but my paycheck doesn't reflect." I'm like, "Oh, taxes came out." She goes, "What are taxes?" And so I explained to her what taxes are, and shame on me that my daughter was 16, didn't know what taxes were. But, but she got really angry and said, why am I learning? Why do I have to be tested on, who crossed I don't know, some kind of history thing. But they're not telling us what taxes are. How is it that it's okay that I graduate from high school, not understanding that, 15% of my wages are going to be withheld from my paycheck. And then I need to budget for that. Right. So, it is an issue for sure.
I'm gonna throw this out there. I don't want to take the conversation off track, but this is a great time to plug Forwardly. No cost payments. Finding things like that and helping people really understand where they can get the best benefit for their money. Utilizing tools like Forwardly. And I didn't mean to take the conversation off track, but I think it's a great tie-in to what we're discussing here. Understanding, the difference between just going to an ATM and pulling money out or going to your own bank's ATM and pulling money out is huge.
I will say as well, to jump in really quick, because I do talk about this all the time. A lot of people ask me, why is Forwardly different? And I have to explain, well, the way that money moves in America is, and then I have to explain the ACH system. And then people ask about Zelle. And then I have to explain how Zelle works and how Venmo works. And I have to explain how we're actually using this new technology and it's from the Federal Reserve and it's actually going from bank to bank. And yes, your bank had to use it and had to implement it and put this technology through. People would be like, but how is that different than Venmo? And I'm like, well, with Venmo, you're actually opening a wallet in Venmo, right? You're having to fund an account or it's different. Cash App is the same. Zelle is actually made by all the bank or by some of the biggest banks in order to facilitate those faster payments. But this is an entirely new payment system. And the amount of people that I do have to educate on what exactly the difference is like closer to 90% than I would like. It's very interesting how few people, and that includes accountants. A lot of them don't understand the difference between an ACH transfer and an instant payment or a real-time payment, as they're called too. So
Before I go over to Alicia, Jane, I'd like to ask you real quickly, being our local Canadian here, how different, like what's different about financial literacy in Canada in comparison to down here? If you don't mind, you would like to contribute, and then we'll head
Yeah.
over to Alicia because I saw your hand up there.
For sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a terrible example of education in Canada because I went to alternative programs for pretty much my entire, all of my education. So I didn't go to a traditional school system. I went to entirely independent based learning. So I could graduate at my own pace and, basically do so very quickly. But one of the math courses that I took, for instance, I had the choice of taking like advanced algebra or taking normal, what they called like essentials math. And our essentials math was really interesting because it basically gave us a fake wage. And then it told us, hey, you need to, here's your wage. Please, as part of one of your assignments, file your taxes and apply for a car loan and tell us how much you're going to make. And that was actually one of the courses that I had to do for that class. But a lot of the people I've talked to still don't, I wouldn't say that's necessarily standard, but for my school, at least, that was the standard curriculum for our essentials math course. The interesting thing is the essentials math course I took isn't actually the recommended one if you're planning on going to post-secondary for most college or university degrees. And what I was taught in essentials is not taught in the more advanced course. So I got an entirely different curriculum than the people who were trying to go to post-secondary, which is a really neat or terrible point, depending on your perspective.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alicia, I saw you had your hand up earlier. I'd love to hear what you were thinking.
Yeah, well, it's wrapping back around to what does financial literacy mean? And we've actually touched on most of what I was going to say, but understanding credit cards and understanding cash apps and understanding what it's going to take to get a loan and to retire. And basically what Jane was just saying, if this is your paycheck, how do you disperse it and not go into debt?
I want to just interject real quick because I think this is important, especially since this is also like a business platform. I think what's really important is that financial literacy, and this is because now that I teach it, I've had to really break it down where there's financial literacy for, your personal financial literacy. I feel like we were talking heavily about that. Then there's your business financial literacy. And I think, Jane, your example was so incredible because the business financial literacy comes to play when the business is like, well, I have all this revenue coming from all these different payment providers and all these income streams, and I have all this going on. So now they're asking about their finances, about money in and movement, but it's related to the business. But maybe they've never owned a business. So if they had any financial literacy on the personal side, they're trying to apply their personal knowledge into their business, which no way, like completely different world there, right? That's why we don't use Venmo for business, right? So it's like it's such a massive teaching and awareness opportunity to just pull back and first of all be very kind and mindful. I'm just going to say it out that right now, because just because someone is in a different place in their life and how many years they've been wherever in their life, we need to be non-judgmental and be open to teach at that moment. Because if we are just like, how do you not know this? And you've been in business for how long? And oh my gosh, and I don't want to see your books. Like, no. We can't do that, right? We need to be like, okay, this is a teaching moment. And when I'm saying in our heads, we're saying this is the teaching moment. This person really does not know what they're doing. So let's not judge them. And let's just this goes back to helping our community and loving on our community. Like, let's love on that person for a moment. Let's slow down. And if you don't have 20 minutes at that moment, you can be like, hey, Richard, can we have a date tomorrow in a couple of days? Like, I actually think I wanted to sit down and kind of walk you through this. I don't have 20 minutes to do it right now, but you're in your mind thinking Richard really needs a conversation right now, right? And I'm not saying you, Richard, but I'm just saying in general, like, just because you keep on smiling, so I looked at your face. Like, I would take the time and just be like, I don't want Richard to get off this call or get off this Facebook chat or whatever with the questions he's asking, and I clearly know that he's has the disconnect there. I want to help him. So I think to kind of go full circle, helping is not only having an organization or donating, it's being able to pull out when someone actually is
Well
not
said.
getting it and just being like, hey, Matt, can we talk after this chat for a moment? 'Cause I just want to make sure, like I kind of was also not sure. Let's have a quick conversation. And then just kind of, help them out, because it's very clear that a business owner may not have this literacy, which is totally different than them working a wage earner job, right? So I feel like that's so important to mention right now, because I think that's where at least my clients, my solopreneur, self-employed clients, have felt very judged and very offended and very talked down to when they just want to ask a simple question, and they're, accounting professional, which I don't think any professional should make someone feel judged or bad, but they make them feel bad. And guess what happens to that business owner? They stop asking questions, which is even worse. So I just want to mention that.
I have a saying, it's really easy to forget what you had to learn. And the intent of it is, sometimes we forget step 1, 2, and 3, the things we struggled with to get to the point of the knowledge we have. So if we don't have the patience when you're trying to help train others or enlighten others, you've got to remember it's really easy to forget what you had to learn. Slow down, try to take the time, make sure they get the real core basics of it, for sure.
I've talked about this a lot in Roundtable Labs. I am that person. And I will say that gaining a bookkeeper that really listens, doesn't feel like I have terrible questions, and even if they are basic, has no problem educating. And I'm going to give a shout out. Matthew is my bookkeeper, and Matthew has done an amazing job of educating me on business finance. Are we all the way through everything? Hell no. Are we getting there? Yes. I learn something every single time that we talk about my books. And I am that person. I believe that I am not skilled enough, so I outsource it to a professional who takes care of it, but at the same time educates me. There is nothing more valuable in your business than getting the right people in place, especially an accountant. And for somebody who's ingrained in the accounting community, it's hard for me to say that out loud, but I do, because I am the typical client of most of you. I have a successful business. I don't know what to do with my own money, and it's difficult when you surround yourself with accountants, right? So yeah, Matthew has been a game changer in my world, and I hope everybody hears exactly what you're saying, Mariette, because it's so true. Absolutely true.
There's no better feeling than when I'm sure everybody will agree here, when you're helping somebody and you start to see the evolution within their own mindset and their abilities, and they're growing. I mean, that is like the best fulfillment and like payback, is to see that happen. Rich, I know, again, you and I've spoken about some stuff in the past. You've actually, one of the areas where you'd like to give back is helping to kind of like teach others, so forth. Would you share?
I'm very heavy into the mentoring and finding somebody that I can mentor into the accounting world. I do career night at the high school where the students want to find out what the career in accounting is. I help out with the internship programs at our firms and educating them. And even if you know somebody that's in accounting or their kids in accounting, and you can offer them some sort of an internship, whether it be paid or unpaid, are just ways that you can give back. But I wanted to just share with you my story of where I got, my most gratification. When I was looking for clients that wanted just some bookkeeping services that were just, they couldn't afford, my rates. So I was looking for one, and I was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Andy Zaricki. And I liked Andy, and it was, working with him, but I could tell he had a lot of potential, but he wasn't acting on the potential. He was, oh, this is great. And I said, well, do you ever go to a conference? Oh, yeah, oh, that sounds nice. Or do you ever join the QuickBooks Power Hour every other Tuesday? Oh, yeah, I should get involved in that. And I figured, what is the only way I'm going to get him to go? I said, how about if, you want to go to Scaling New Heights? It's a great program. And I said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll pay for your ticket to go to the conference. And you come back and you tell me whether it was worth it or not. And I guess my biggest gratification was he came back and he texting me all these messages and all these pictures and all this great stuff that really kind of changed his way of thinking in the accounting community and the way he handles business and what he does. And I think, and he's online here. I don't know whether he's listening because he needs to come off mute because I want him to share some of his thoughts.
You're forgetting to mention also that the following year he was named as one of the top 25 up and comers. Right.
Up and comers. And then last year he was named a part of the top 100. So that's the gratification I get being able to mentor somebody and taking somebody in the accounting community. And if you haven't done any sort of mentoring or internship programs, I know in the tax area, we need interns January through April. That's basically their spring semester. You don't always get students like that. They want to come in the summer, and I realize there's not a lot to do in the summer. Usually it's telling them how to do payroll taxes or items that like are on extension. They don't get as much as they would in the January area. But if you haven't thought of finding somebody and mentoring them, and you'd like to give back, that's one particular way. Now, I also worked for a firm that they had an internship program that was unpaid. And if the intern completed the program, the firm would would put money into their education account at the university or the school that they were at. So they technically got a scholarship for them in a sort of an indirect way, and the company, they took it off as an education expense. So there are ways that we can kind of work around the system to give back to our community. And I'd like to hear from anybody else here who has been able to give back to the accounting community by helping somebody. Do you also, another couple things is, do you ever do tax returns complimentary for somebody? That's giving back, especially in the senior citizens home. People could use all that type of work that we do. And if we're willing to do it at no charge, that's one way of giving back to the community. So who here has given back in some way?
I know more people here have, for sure. There's different ways. Not the tax side, because I don't do that part of it, but yes. So.
You rely on me.
As we get closer to the time here, and I really think today especially is an important day to be really, stay on time so everybody can go do their Valentine's Day stuff. I wanted to share one idea I've had for some time since we've got some accounting cornerstone people here. For the longest time, I've wanted to build out a community directory for all of the different members across our accounting community where they can go and they can list themselves. And the biggest reason for it is in the city or area they're in. Reason being is we're seeing more and more natural disasters are happening all the time. And now that I have so many friends across the United States and throughout the world, truly, I don't always remember who's where and who might be impacted by it. And I would love to have some kind of a directory like that so we know who we need to go and check in on, make sure they're okay, and somebody doesn't get missed out that way. And I think that would just be another great thing we could try to do to lift everybody up around us. So any last thoughts or words or ideas anybody else would like to share? Richard, you got anything? Put you on the spot. Jane, go for it.
I'll share something. And this isn't my personal experience. This is something that my father used to do. And my father was a tax professional for most of the 90s, 80s, whatever. He was he used to write the Canadian tax guide for income tax every year, pretty much up until the year I was born, when apparently it just got too hard. No correlation, none. But one thing that he used to do was he would get, he was like, if somebody searched US Canada tax border, immigration, a bunch of keywords on Google, back when it was very, very young, he was always the first result. So he would make his email address front and center on the website. And he would basically say on the website, write in your problem to me. And if you want, I will answer it for free in my daily newsletter. I'll anonymize it, 100% anonymized. I will remove all personal information, but I'll answer it for you. And if you want personal information, you can then follow up with me and then, you'll get the normal charge. But he sent out a daily newsletter and he sent it out for pretty much like 15 years, like up until the week he died, that he was looking through these, and he would publish them on his website too. So there was this huge archive of just random tax questions that he was answering. And he did all of that pro bono. Like, it was just a way for him to kind of give back to the community and answer things for people who couldn't necessarily afford his frankly ridiculous hourly fee, right? But if somebody did read his answer and realize, oh my gosh, I actually really need this guy, there was always that opportunity. It wasn't a formal program. It was just kind of something that he did. And and a weird thing that worked into that was that actually helped him market his company, because as we know, updating your website regularly improves your search results. So that was actually one of the ways that he was able to stay at the top of Google when people searched US, Canada, dual border tax, immigration, consultant, help expert, etc., because every single day he was posting something like that and answering those questions. So just
it's a great example of,
if you have your own blog, if you have that kind of thing come in, there's always more you can do.
Yeah. It's a great example of know, like, and trust. That is a really good idea. Mariette, you had something.
I just had one that it's so easy, guys. And again, it depends on whether you want to, like, this is your style, but I feel like this is one of the easiest way to uplift the accounting community. And I do it. That's why I'm saying I do. And it's really easy. And I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. So whenever I would go to an accounting conference, I would have buddies. So I'd kind of find out, like, if I'd start asking people, hey, is this your first time going? And like, I'd have, and I know Matthew and Richard, you guys have been awesome about having those like pre-conference webinars, and you get people that are like learning like how to prepare, how to pack, do all that. So in those webinars, I'd have my own as well. I'd start seeing who the newbies are. And then afterwards, I'd personally ask them and I'd say, hey, can I be your buddy? And they're like, weirdo? Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I mean, like, literally be your buddy. Like, do you want to get on WhatsApp or are you on Messenger? And I want to just be checking on you. Like during the conference, I want to send you a quick message and be like, hey, are you in your room or are you downstairs? What class are you going to? And so it's crazy how people are like, oh my gosh, I've never had anyone like hang out with me through a text or through messaging. And it just helped them open up. And eventually that person decided to be a buddy to somebody else. So again, it sounds kind of like weird, I guess, because it's like you just ask this woman if she wants to be your buddy. Obviously, I'd have a good feeling about the person first. But what I've seen is those people now do that for other people. Like they even do quick little voice messages like, hey, Mary, guess what? I'm going to be Rich's buddy. And I've already sent him a couple of voice messages on like what he should do to prepare for the conference. So again, it's a ripple effect. And it doesn't make me do any work because I'm already going to be at the conference. So, you know what I'm saying? And I'll make it even easier for me. If I'm speaking at the conference, let's say Ryan is my buddy. I'd be like, hey, Ryan, you want to hang out with me? Then go to my class. And then after class, we'll walk the hall together. Like I make it as simple and easy as possible because I'm not trying to give myself more work. But let me tell you, Ryan is like, oh my God, how cool. Mariette's going to walk the hall with me and we're going to like chit chat. And that's how you make real impact. Like that's how you make real community friends. So again, obviously this may not feel as natural for some of you, but the more you do it, the more fun it is. And it's just truly empowering on both ends. Like you end up can have your best friends. I mean, I think Heather is a good example of that. Like I used to stalk her too, and now she's my very best friend. So she probably thought I was a weirdo 10 years ago, but now she can't get rid of me. So there you go. That's just another example on how we can help our community members.
And
Mariette, I just want to remind you, I think it was me who called you. So
That's probably the only case that's ever happened.
yeah, and Mariette, you don't know what it's like to be on the other side, going to your first conference and all scared and stuff. That's a great thing to buddy up with people. You make such a difference that they had a great conference.
Yes.
You should always partner up with Mariette. If you, if you rely on coffee too much, just partner up with Mariette because her energy will keep you going all day long. I guarantee it. So it's awesome that way. So
I wanted to also mention the fact that what Scaling does really well is on that very first day, they have the newcomers orientation. And I always enjoy helping out with that because I get to meet a lot of brand new people. And it's like Marriott was saying, you can kind of just befriend yourself to them and check on them. And then a lot of times I find myself running into them in the hallways and whatever, and I ask how they're doing, and it's just kind of neat.
One of the things I really love about this community is it doesn't matter. I've seen it happen over and over and over and over again. Just walk up to anybody in this community at any conference, any event, anything live, and people are going to welcome you into the tribe. Nobody cares that they didn't know you 5 minutes before that.
Amen. I love it. So thank you everybody for joining us and spending some time on your Valentine's Day with us. I truly, truly appreciate it. I hope everybody feels a little bit more fulfilled through this conversation. I'd like to say thank you again to Jane and Fordley for helping to sponsor our series. It's been a wonderful thing. And again, hope you guys have a wonderful Valentine's Day. And as always, here's wishing you all a very successful week. Thanks.
Can I hold the space for just one more second?
Got it,
Jane
Carl.
put an awesome comment in the chat about tax retreat having a giant Slack message with the ideas we just shared. One intro way, kind of like what Marriott offered, is can I help you set up your Slack and make sure you are logged in and have notifications on so that you find out about the stuff? Because I found that out about tax retreat this last year. There were a handful of people who just don't know Slack very well. Clearly, they don't know Richard, and and so just to make sure that they get those notifications and they know what's going on, like that's one thing that I'm going to be doing next year at Tax Retreat.
Good job.
Great ad. Love it. All right, guys.